everybody, I'm Tom Vasel, and welcome to my series where I'm going through and ranking my favorite games from various game designers. A lot of fantastic game designers out there, and today I want to talk about Martin Wallace. Now, this is one of the few lists, I think, when I go through these, that I think many people will highly differ from me on Martin Wallace. He's done some very heavy, unique style games, and not all those made my list. Of course, this is my own personal list. These are my favorite games that he's done. So I've gone through my top 10 games from Martin Wallace. He tends to do things differently than most other people. His games have a distinct feel to them. When you see a Martin Wallace game in play, you're like, that's a Martin Wallace game. It has that feel to it, and he takes ideas that other people have and twists them in a different, unusual way, like deck building. We'll get to that in a bit. So let's get started here with number 10, Conquest of the Empire. Now, technically, Conquest of the Empire is kind of a reimagining of his work that he did in Struggle of the Empire, so you can put that in here too, which just was released, Struggle of the Empire. So this is Conquest of the Empire or Struggle of the Empire. Conquest of the Empire is a more friendly version. Glenn Drover was involved with this one, where they put this out, and just this idea of working together. There's so many things going on. It takes like a bigger view of the world and conquering, but it's not a war game. So I like the feel that this one has a lot. Number 9 is Hit the Road, a zombie game. And it's not the only zombie game that Martin Wallace has done, but this one, it's on my list because of its distinct feel. So in this game, Hit the Road, you are a family and you're traveling, and the game is a game created by the boy of this family that's traveling. That's really cool because it looks like it. The currency is bottle caps, and it kind of has this feel that this kid made a board game with whatever he could find. But the idea of kind of almost like a push your luck, trying to get to the end without zombies getting you, it just has a different feel than most other zombie games. I like it. Number 8 is A Few Acres of Snow. Now, A Few Acres of Snow is the deck building game I was talking about earlier. Martin Wallace took deck building and added a war game element to it. That's interesting, and it really is an interesting game. Now, there's a big controversy online about the Halifax Hammer and a broken strategy, which I've never read up on because I don't want the game to be ruined for me. And I guess maybe it wasn't fixed. I don't know. All I know is it's taking a not particularly complex war game, but a simple-ish war game, and then adding deck building to it, this two-player game, I think it comes across really well. Number 7 is A Study in Emerald. Now, there's some debate, because the Study of Emerald has two versions of it, A Study of Emerald and A Study of Emerald 2nd Edition, as to which one is better. I've only played one of them, so I can't tell you, but I do like this idea of these, these monsters and things behind the scenes. It's one of the few games where someone is like not a hidden traitor, but someone could be, you don't know what team everyone's on till the end, although you can figure it out as the game goes by. It's a very strong thematic game, bringing in this not quite Lovecraftian stuff, but just this idea of monsters behind the scenes and people running things. I really like it. Number 6 is Runebound 2nd Edition. People forget that this game existed. In fact, Runebound 3rd Edition replaced it, but 2nd Edition has some near and dear spots to my heart. This is an adventure game, pure and simple. And I think that while Martin Wallace is best known for his big, giant, epic style games, games like Runebound, well, I guess it's big and epic too, but a lighter game. And now it's too long, for sure. It's definitely too long. In fact, I put this on my list of games that go on too long just recently, but it's so interesting. You're picking up allies, you're picking up equipment, and you're going around and doing different encounters. And there's a lot of games that have copied it, but it really felt different and unique, and I like it. Number 5 is Via Nebula. Now, Martin Wallace is definitely known for train games, although not too many of them made my list here. But Via Nebula is not a train game, but it is. Wink, wink. I mean, you're clouds and moving around, taking resources, but you're essentially building a network of tracks. It's not quite tracks, but the pieces are really nice. This is a game that kind of got moved on by. Not a lot of people have played it, but it's a light, railroad game. I'm going to keep calling it a railroad game because that's essentially what it is, with really great components. It's definitely one to check out, Via Nebula. Number 4 is Discworld Ankh-Morpork. Now this was recently remade as Nancy Narking, so you can put either game in this spot. I have not played Nancy Narking, but I played the original one and I really liked it. So I like the Discworld universe. Not as much as some people do. There's really big fans of it, but I like the concept of it. And this game did a good idea. It's a little bit of area control, but everyone has different victory conditions, and they're all trying to accomplish those with some few simple mechanisms moving things around a map. And I thought that was a pretty clever thing. It brought forth the theme, and I guess the theme now, Nancy Narking, which is, I think, more of a old London with werewolves and stuff. I'm not sure exactly what the theme of Nancy Narking is, but I know that they had to move the theme over because of copyright reasons. But if you can find a copy of the old one, I think it does do a nice job at bringing Discworld to life. Number 3 is Liberté. Now, Liberté is one of his bigger games, and this one is screaming for a second edition because the concept of it's so good. This used to be one of my favorite games. It's dropped a bit because it's hard to find people to play with at all. And I think some of the mechanisms haven't held up so well. But in this, it's during the French Revolution, and you're trying to pick who to side with. There are 3 different ways that the game can end. It can end, normally, and you get points. But there also, one of the 2 extremes could win, and then you better be with that extreme. The royalists could win, or the people going against it. And so there's different elections going, and you're trying to be on the right side of who wins different elections on the board. It's a really cool concept. There's also a little war happening in the background. If someone says, what is the quintessential Martin Wallace game that shows off what he can do? Liberté is a good example of that. There's the Princess of the Renaissance and other games, but I think Liberté, and I like the theme of it too. I mean, not a very pleasant time, but the theme, I think, comes out in this game. Number 2 is either Steam or Railways of the World. Now, I guess I could even put Age of Steam here. Age of Steam is probably the game Martin Wallace is best known for. It does really well. Due to copyright reasons and a dispute with the company, he remade the game as Steam. Steam is a slightly nicer version of Age of Steam, and I like it. You can use most maps for both games interchangeably, but it is a pick up cubes, deliver them, very back and forth, very interactive, really nitty gritty, and Steam takes out the auction element of Age of Steam, and I think it does a really good job. Railways of the World, another collaboration with Glenn Drover involved, takes the same game system and makes it bigger and more grandiose. So either one of these would work for this spot. My number 1 game from Martin Wallace, though, is Wildlands. I guess you could put Judge Dredd, Helter Skelter. There's a lot of or this game on this list because they're essentially the same game system. One's Judge Dredd. Wildlands is generic fantasy. But it's not necessarily generic, but it's a really interesting game, especially when you have the full complement of 4 players. Each person is running around the map, using cards to move their characters, fight with each other, and pick up these little gems that another player put elsewhere. It's not a long game. It's not particularly a heavy game, but it feels really fun and interesting and has some neat expansions, one where there's skeletons, and there's one where you're all fighting against one person. There's just a lot of, but there's the box for Wildlands, I think, is pretty big and open, and there's a lot of cool things that you can do with it. So definitely my favorite game from Martin Wallace. I'm sure you all have different favorite games. He's done quite a few. Let me know what your favorites are in the comments. Which ones did I miss egregiously? So let me know. Until next time, I'm Tom Vasel, and these are my favorite games from different designers here on the Dice Tower.